Good evening, folks, and a very warm welcome to the Game of Two Halves podcast, sponsored by Euro football star and powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. My name is Tonchi Prusak. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you again for episode 112. It's our 12th episode this year. And for those of you who are new to the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast, it's our 5th season. And we wouldn't be able to get by without our sponsors. So a huge thank you to our major season sponsor this year, Euro Football Star. Folks, we've got a big show for you. I say that every week, but indeed this week is indeed a massive show. In the global game segment, we've got a very talented young teenage footballer from Queensland. His name's Jack Reedy. He'll be joining us very shortly. And the Geelong connection there is he's at the Stephen Gerrard Academy in Liverpool and is sharing the program with our very own Ben Zilic from Geelong as well. So we'll catch up with him in the global game segment, which is coming up very shortly. Straight after that, it's the local game segment. All the news and views and results and everything that happened from the weekend just gone by. Once again, a very mixed bag of results for the Geelong clubs. It was a catch-up round in the community section, but we do have also news about the local women's league. It has been split up into Division 1 and Division 2 as of this week coming. It is the halfway mark of the local competition. So we'll go through all of that, plus a lot more. But our special guest in the local game segment is a man who's quite familiar to our region, ANDY PASCHALIDIS. For those of you old enough to remember the old National Soccer League, he was one of the iconic commentators on SBS television. He still dabbles in commentating, and we'll find out a little bit about his exploits commentating, amongst other things, the Indian Super League for some of the major television networks over there. He will also be running an activation site for his foundation, for his charitable foundation that he founded and he is a director of, Heartbeat for Football. And that will be held this Sunday at Alco Park as part of the North Geelong NPL clash that they're going to have with the Melbourne Knights. A very big game, that one. But it's going to also be bring a big crowd. And we're calling on members of the entire football community in Geelong to come down and be a part of the Heartbeat of Football. And we'll find out a little bit more about what that entails a little bit later on. Folks, a lot coming up in the show. Don't go away. As soon as we come back after this very short break, well, it'll be time for our first guest in the global game, Jack Reedy, and he'll be coming to us all the way from Brisbane, Queensland. As the first solar tube skylight installer in Victoria, Scotsco Skylighting has nearly 30 years of experience and offers a variety of services including custom-made skylights, high-quality Velux skylights, and a variety of solar tube daylighting systems. The benefits of having the skylight in your home are many. They let natural light into your space, and with that light comes solar heat. improving your mood, and even helping with performance in workplaces. Plus, heating your home with sunlight can save on heating costs during the chilly seasons. Cosmetic changes like skylights can add equity into your home, and similar to adding mirrors on the walls, skylights can make a room feel bigger and more spacious. It's about time you enjoyed all these benefits plus more. So what are you waiting for? To get a free daylight assessment and installation quote, call our founder and owner Adrian Begg on 0409 823 177 or visit our website at www.scotsgoskylights.com.au. Scotsgo Skylighting is proudly Geelong owned and operated. Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. And it's my pleasure now to introduce to the Game of Two Halves podcast, Jack Reedy, coming all the way live from Brisbane. It's an absolute pleasure to have Jack Reedy from the Stephen Gerrard Academy on the program. He's coming to us live from his home up in Queensland, sunny Queensland, a lot warmer and sunnier than down here in Victoria, I hope. Jack, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, we'll talk about the Stephen Gerrard Academy a little bit later on. But mate, tell us a bit about yourself and how did you get into football? Where did you play first of all? And you know, it's obviously a short career thus far. I'm sure there's a long career to come. But what have you done with your footballing career so far?
Well, I started playing community soccer in my local town, Stanthorpe, where I played for a local club called Stanthorpe City, just playing community soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was coached by my dad and a man named Jeff Paddy, who taught me basically the basics and my groundwork of football. And I probably played there for about 4 years until I kind of reached my limit and my peak. And my parents realized that I reached my limit and my peak, so they realized I had to go in to the stronger and more developed football where I had to go, where I could develop and improve. And which means they had to put me in the car and travel me to different places like Brisbane and that. And I think the next place I went to was an academy called Southern Downs Football Academy, which was coached by a man named Matt K. Roos and Tim Gasky, where the football was a lot stronger than the community soccer in Stanthorpe.
How old were you at this stage?
So at Stanthorpe, I started at 5 and then be about 4 years. So I'll probably be about 9 when I moved there, 10.
Yeah.
Probably when I went to SDFA.
And was that in Brisbane, was it? Or where was that?
I was in Warwick.
Yeah, Warwick. Now, is it true that your parents at one stage were clocking up to 4,000 kilometres a week? Listen to these folks, 4,000 kilometres a week to drive you and your sister Mel to training and matches?
Yes, it is true. So it's basically we both had 3 nights of training a week, and it was a bit unlucky for us that both of our nights didn't line up. So we're unfortunately traveling up to 5 nights a week, weekdays, for training, and it would be for Brisbane. For us to travel to Brisbane, it would be 3 hours there, and then 2 hours worth of training and 3 hours back. And we weren't making it home until maybe about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And then we would have to wake up and go to school the next day.
So how did you manage that? Like, were you doing school in the back seat of the car? Were you?
We would literally, straight after school, I'd have to chuck all my things in my bag and then run straight to the car, and then drive 3 hours to Brisbane, and then I'll do my schoolwork in the car. And
when did you manage to eat? Also in the back of the
so we had me and my sister Mel would help mum and dad make dinners and meals before we would have to leave and go. Yeah. And then we'd eat it on the road. We'd heat it up, keep it in like a cooler bag, and then we'll eat it on the road.
Insane. And we're about an hour's drive from Melbourne, and you sometimes get people complaining driving an hour up to Melbourne, an hour back from Melbourne, a couple of times a week. But that's insane. Like 4,000 kilometres. That really is incredible. So after that, what happened? You obviously got noticed, and you started moving up the tree as you started getting stronger and better and more skillful. Tell us the next phase of that career then.
So I was at work, and Matt and Tim and would work and develop more on my mastering of the ball and my game through that game. And then Matt K. Roos got me to go and trial for the Brisbane Raw Academy. And I successfully made it in there. So for the next 2 years, I was training with the Brisbane Raw coaches and training with some of the best players in Queensland, and then also training with this SDFA squad in Warwick. And then I'll be playing games with this SDFA. So with the Raw, so it was probably about 10, 11, 12 around that time. So it'll be 4 nights of training a week. So be an hour to Warwick there, and then an hour back from Warwick, and then it'll probably be about 3 hours for the Brisbane Raw trip. And then after SDFA, I think it would have to be 13, where I also, like Stanthorpe, I reached my limit and my peak with those Warwick boys, and I would have to move on to the next level, which was in Toowoomba. And the next team I played for was Southwest Thunder, which was NPL development. So then that's in Toowoomba, so that would be about 2.5 hours drive there, and then about 5 hours in total there and back. So and then so I train probably, I think it was 3 nights a week with them, and then games on weekends as well. And at that moment, I think I got noticed and I got picked up by Ray Wood from Euro Football Star. Went and did some trialing with him, and then he offered to take me over to go play some games in England and to go see what it's like and to experience the atmosphere and the quality and all that. So my dad and I went over to England, and we I think we played against Burnley, Blackburn, I think it was Barnsley and Wolves, and Wolves, I think it was the other one.
Yep.
And then we got to train with like one of Stephen Gerrard's old coaches, Hugh McCauley, which that was class. And I think when I came back, I said to my dad, I was like they were a lot more stronger and faster, and the physicality and the speed and the technicality. I think I just said to my dad, I was like, Dad, I want to give it a real go, you know? This is what I love doing, and I want to give it a real go.
Yep.
My dad was like, all right, if you're really committed to this, then we ended up ringing Ray Wood and see if we could get any private sessions in. And he said yes. And for the next 2 years, I would be doing private training with Ray Wood. And I think he was very, very good for my development because he's very good at teaching you the finer things that the clubs don't really teach you.
So like the 1% is what they say.
Yeah. He taught me game awareness, and he taught me that like football's not really just, you know, going out on the field and kicking a ball. It's all about the other like 1% things that you got to do. Like he taught me how to run properly, like the running and the physicality side. So like going to the gym and recovering and strengthening my body from injuries. And he learned me like game awareness and technicals, and then he went on.
You've mentioned game. Sorry to cut you up. You've mentioned game awareness a couple times now. Tell us what do you mean by game awareness? That's a really good point. That
I think it's like it's more like I think one of the drills he worked so hard on with me was checking my shoulder, knowing where I'm on the pitch and who's behind me, and where the spaces are, and I think more like so if I can get my head up, he taught me how to loft a ball properly. It surprises me how many boys can't loft a ball, and it's like if I'm here on the ball and I can get my head up and I can loft that ball from to there and straight to the people, I can do that good now, which is I've got to thank Ray for that.
Yeah, a very good tool, and it's that being it's almost like sort of like scanning before you get the ball, knowing where your teammates are, but also knowing where the opponents are, and being that. This is how I understand it, sort of being 2 steps ahead before your opponent even has a chance to react. You've already made the decision what you're going to do, and that's that 1%er we talk about. That's really interesting. And was it that 2-year period when you started training with Ray, Euro football star? Is that when the opportunity for the Steve Gerrard Academy? How did that come about? Was it a trial or?
Stephen Gerrard was like it would have to be like last year. So when COVID hit, it kind of shut down Ray's whole like business sort of, well, basically with everyone.
Yeah.
And he took me over those 2 years of COVID, and he said to me, well, when COVID ends, I want to take a trip back over, and I want you to get you into some of these clubs and trialing and all that. So last year he took me over and he got me into trialing with clubs as well, Stephen Gerrard, Tranmere Rovers, and Bolton. And he got me over back last year to England for 2 weeks to get into these clubs and trialing and trying to get me into the system over there. And as I got with Stevie G, I remember like we got there and it's pissing down rain, and they had me trialing in with the 23. So these are all young men, and I was 15, and I was like, it was tough, but it was good. Like, you know, they were fast, they were strong. When they would hit you hard, and then like 1 second the ball's here, the next second. But I think I got in, and I was pretty much I was accepted, which was good. And now I'm over there in England living and playing with the Stephen Gerrard Academy.
Now let's talk about that, the Stephen Gerrard Academy. What's a typical day of in Liverpool at the Stephen Gerrard Academy? You wake up. What time do you wake up, and how does the day progress, including school and things like that?
So I would wake up like 7 o'clock. Around 7 o'clock, I would shower and get all my clothes and go downstairs, and I would have like a breakfast, like that would fuel me. So like a lot of avocados, a lot of eggs, a lot of things like that. And when I've done breakfast, then I think around about it would have to be 8:30, 8:45. me and all the international boys would walk from our hotel that we're all staying at. This it's kind of like a boarding house.
Yep.
They're all staying at, and we walk from there to Wincott, where we have on-site schooling.
Yep.
At our training grounds, and we'll go do schooling from 9:30 till about 12 o'clock. We'd walk back to our boarding house. We'll fuel up with like lots of carbs like pasta, rice, chicken, all things like that, and then we'll get into training, which would be probably around about 1:30, 2 o'clock, and we'll train for about 2 hours, and then we'll get back to the boarding house and we'll do an analysis, and we'll go over game tactics and like last week games, what we can improve on and all that. We'll also get into like individual ones where it's like how you're progressing. Well, if you need to put on more weight, if you need to work on this technically, or all things like that. And then we'll go back out for another training session. Probably from like 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Wow. So 2 training sessions a day, basically.
Yeah. And sometimes it varied. Sometimes it was like lunch, and then we'll go to the gym and we'll do a lot of gym work. And or I've had a game the other day, we'll do recovery where we're in the ice baths, the spas, and the sauna rooms. And
fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, mate, we're going to take a very, very short break. We're talking with Jack Reedy, and he's a Brisbane teenager or Queensland teenager who's at the Stephen Gerrard Academy. When we return, we'll talk a little bit more about the Stephen Gerrard Academy, and we'll also ask you for your advice for any aspiring young footballer here in Geelong looking to do the same thing and maybe even make that big move to Europe for their football. So, folks, don't go away. It is the Game of Two Halves, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Mist Air Conditioning and Mechanical Services is one of Geelong's premier domestic air conditioning companies. The company is a venture by the directors of a major commercial mechanical services company which has over 45 years combined experience in the air conditioning sector all over Australia. Our service and vast industry connections will ensure that Mist AC will not only be competitive in price, it will also get you, the client, ongoing service needs for your home or office. With a 7-year guarantee on all our workmanship, you can rest assured you will never be left out in the cold. Whether you are renovating or building your new family home, Mist can provide all types of ducted, split or reverse cycle air conditioning for your environment. We offer a total solution suitable to your family's needs. To find out more, visit our website at www.misthc.com.au or email us at info@misthc.com.au or call us now on 5278 6478. Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. We've got young Jack Reedy here from the Steve Gerrard Academy in Liverpool. Now, Jack, tell us what have been some of the highlights so far. How long have you been at the Steve Gerrard Academy in Liverpool? What, for about a year now?
For about 4 months.
4 months, yeah. What have been some of the highlights so far?
I think actually going over there and living and experience and breathing just all football, and like everyone's around me, it's all football, and I'm training with I'm playing with in the under 18s, and I'm playing up into the 21s, and I'm training with 23s. So I'm training with people who are a lot more older and more experienced and a lot more like mature with me. So it's like I get to learn and experience what they're also going through with the football as well. I think another highlight was at the end of last year, Stephen Gerrard Academy were able to go on to Liverpool FC's actual football academy. We got to train in their facilities, and we got to experience what it was like, and we actually got watched by Diego Jota and Jordan Henderson. Yeah. And we actually got to meet up with them and talk to them and take photos, which was unreal. basically.
Well, that's definitely a highlight. Definitely a highlight. Well, it's the off season at the moment, and that's ending very, very shortly, and you'll be on the plane back to England. But take us through this off season. What have you been doing to just keep your sharpness, your preparations up to par for the upcoming season? Have you been training on your own, or have you been able to combine that with one of the clubs up in Queensland?
Every day I'm training by myself, which I'm going down to the field, working on a lot of technical sides and working on my fitness a lot. I've also gone into the gym. I'm doing a lot of gym work. And then twice a week, I'm going down to Brisbane Olympic and training with their under-18s with a very good mate of mine, Matthew Proctor, who's from England, and his daughter is with Manchester United's under-23s. So
Brilliant. Yeah. Now, finally, some words of advice for any aspiring youngster that may be tuning into this podcast and wondering, geez, I'd love to be like Jack. I'd love to do what he's done. What are some words of advice you'd have for these youngsters who are looking up to you?
That whatever you do in life, work hard at it. Work as hard as you possibly can, because the more you work at it, the better result you got to get at it. I've had coaches and I've had people who have tried to belittle me and push me off to the side and all that and tell me that I'm not good enough. But you gotta power and persist through them. You gotta try to take on board as much as you can and learn. So even if you don't like this coach, learn what he has to say, like absorb what he has to coach. Because even though you don't like it, every coach teaches differently and everyone has a different opinion. And the more you can absorb and the more you can take on, plus that with all your hard work, you can go and get places. You'll be one step above everyone else that in life. Mostly.
Love it, mate. Always be open to learning. That is a fantastic attitude to have. And Jack, we wish you certainly all the very, very best for your future. And who knows, we might even see you in Victoria one day playing for one of the senior clubs then here, either at A-League level, maybe even one of the NPL clubs. Who knows? But great having you on the show. And whatever you do, wherever you go with your footballing career, mate, we wish you all the very best.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on here.
Good on you. Jack Reedy, youngster, very, very well-spoken youngster and a talent. He's got talent to burn. He's only 17, but he's already achieved a lot with his footballing career. Folks, don't go away. It's going to be time now for the local game segment. We'll be speaking to football personality, Australian football personality, and he's an absolute football enthusiast, this man. Andy Pascalidis. He'll be joining us after the break. And we'll also have got the big roundup of all that happened over the weekend in our local game segment. It is the Game of Two Halves, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. As the first solar tube skylight installer in Victoria, Scotsco Skylighting has nearly 30 years of experience and offers a variety of services including custom-made skylights, high-quality Velux skylights, and a variety of solar tube daylighting systems. The benefits of having a skylight in your home are many. They let natural light into your space, and with that light comes solar heat, improving your mood and even helping with performance in workplaces. Plus, heating your home with sunlight can save on heating costs during the chilly seasons. Cosmetic changes like skylights can add equity into your home, and similar to adding mirrors on the walls, skylights can make a room feel bigger and more spacious. It's about time you enjoyed all these benefits plus more. So what are you waiting for? To get a free daylight assessment and installation quote, call our founder and owner Adrian Begg on 0409 823 177 or visit our website at www.scotscoskylights.com.au. Scotsco Skylighting is proudly Geelong owned and operated. Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have your company here today, and we're going to whiz through all of the results on the weekend that we had. And let's start off with the NPL Victoria competition. And the first match there was played on Friday night, in fact. North Geelong travelled to the Green Gully Cavaliers. It was at one stage the scores were 1-1, and North Geelong looked like they were going to cause a bit of an upset. Aidan Gardner was a scorer of that goal. Or was it in fact 2-0, and then it came back to 2-1. In the end, Green Gully Cavaliers recorded a 3-1 victory. And North Geelong now slips back into the relegation zone. They've got a big game this weekend coming up against none other than the Melbourneites on Sunday, which is an unusual time. But the game has been moved to Sunday to attract more supporters, and also there's going to be a very, very big event happening at Elco Park this Sunday, and that'll be kicking off a little bit earlier than 3 p.m. And that is going to be the Heartbeat for Football activation, and we'll find out a little bit more about what that involves when we speak to our next guest, Andy Paschalidis. In NPL 3, we had Geelong travel up the road to Caroline Springs George Cross. It was a fairly even game, a close game, and in the end, Caroline Springs George Cross defeated Geelong 1-0. George Cross are in absolute super form at the moment. They've, I think, they've notched up 8 victories on the trot, or 8 games that are undefeated at the moment. They are currently up in second spot now of round of the NPL 3 Victoria competition after 16 rounds. Geelong, they remain in third last position, but they are only 1 point away from that relegation zone, and it is not looking very good for the Geelong clubs, particularly the top 4 ranked men's clubs in the Victorian competition. They are either in the relegation zone or currently just a couple of points away, a run or 2 away from the relegation zone. Another side that currently finds itself in the relegation zone is Corio in State League 1. Corio travelled up to Banyule City and lost 2-0. Unfortunately there, Banyule City now really moves. They leapfrog over Corio, so into 10th spot. Corio were in 10th. They've now dropped down into 11th position, so not a good result at all for Corio on the weekend. And Geelong Rangers to round out the quadrella, if you like, of Geelong teams that are at the moment either in relegation trouble. All of those clubs, bar Geelong in NPL 3, are in relegation zones at the moment, but Geelong is only a point away. Now, this game, the Geelong Rangers didn't play on the weekend. Their game against Mill Park was postponed, and that's been postponed to Saturday, the 5th of August, so in a month's time. They will be taking on Mill Park, who are middle of the competition standings. If we now move along to State League 4 football, and Surf Coast, they are the only Geelong team at the moment looking like they could get promoted come season's end, and they just seem to be going from strength to strength to strength at the moment. A 6-0 win over Moonee Ponds United on the weekend. John Pikett scoring 2 goals. Again, Jaško Ivanović making a long-awaited return from injury. He'd been on the sidelines for about 2 months. He also scored a brace, and a great result there for Surf Coast, a 6-0 win at home. They're starting to get more and more crowds. The newly constructed grandstand there above the club rooms, that was packed out. So it's getting more and more people coming along to those games. And this weekend, it's going to get even more of a crowd because they'll be hosting Barwon Soccer Club in the Southern Geelong Derby. Speaking of Barwon, Barwon warmed up for that derby with a very good 4-1 win over bottom side Gisborne. So they've really solidified their spot there in 6th spot in the top half of the State 4 standings. They should read State 4, by the way, not State League 2. But good result there for Surf Coast. Bell Park and Barwon, indeed. Bell Park, unfortunately, they came up against Barnstoneworth United. They were 6 points ahead of Barnstoneworth going into this game. It was a case of 8th versus 9th. Unfortunately for Bell Park, they weren't able to get all 3 points. And had they got all 3 points, they probably would have jumped into 7th spot and taken over Moonee Ponds United. But it wasn't the case to be. And then in State League 5, finally in State League 5, it was nothing but bad results for all the Geelong sides. Unfortunately, Surfside Waves, although they drew with Ballarat 3-3, so actually that wasn't too bad a result. In fact, that was quite a good result for Surfside Waves up at Tricado Park in Ballarat, 3-3 result there. West Point, they consolidated second spot. They're 2 points ahead of Melton Phoenix in outright second spot. They defeated Lara 3-0. And unfortunately for the Deakin Ducks, who came up against the bottom side ETA Buffalo Club, you would have thought that the Ducks would have defeated the Buffaloes, but no, it was the other way around, and the ETA Buffalo defeated the Ducks 3-2 to record only their second win of the season and hence jump from the bottom of the competition standings. If we have a look at the Women's Victorian Premier League, no games played this week because it was the catch-up round. But Geelong Galaxy, they are there in mid-table at the moment after 13 games, 14 rounds, I should say, because of the 11 teams in this competition. Each team does end up having a bye. So they've had sort of a middle-of-the-road season, 7 wins, 6 losses from their 13 games so far. And then if we look at the Women's State League 1 competition, North Geelong are in third spot, but there's a big gap between themselves and Keilor Park, quite a big gap there. Lara United find themselves in 7th position. They're on 13 points, well clear of Craigieburn City, who jumped from the bottom of the competition standings after they defeated Geelong Rangers 1-0 in a catch-up game on the weekend, which unfortunately that has meant that the Geelong Rangers now have been demoted, so to speak, to the bottom position there in Women's State League 1 after 10 rounds. There are 18 rounds in total, so there are still another 8 games to go. So there is plenty of time, definitely, for Geelong Rangers to save themselves. But remember, they've done really well. They've jumped up two divisions, so they have found it going quite tough this year. But that will all now come back to normal this week when all the games are being played. Folks, we're going to take a very, very short break. When we do return, we're going to look at the newly separated local league women's competition. And there's also some little bits of interesting news that has arisen today. We'll talk about that very, very, very shortly before we get our guest on board. Okay, folks, don't go away. It is the Game of Two Halves podcast powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show and proudly brought to you by Euro Football Star. Mist Air Conditioning and Mechanical Services is one of Geelong's premier domestic air conditioning companies. The company is a venture by the directors of a major commercial mechanical services company which has over 45 years combined experience in the air conditioning sector all over Australia. Our service and vast industry connections will ensure that Mist AC will not only be competitive in price, it will also get you, the client, ongoing service needs for your home or office. With a 7-year guarantee on all our workmanship, you can rest assured you will never be left out in the cold. Whether you are renovating or building your new family home, Mist can provide all types of ducted, split or reverse cycle air conditioning for your environment. We offer a total solution suitable to your family's needs. To find out more, visit our website at www.misthc.com.au or email us at info@misthc.com.au or call us now on 5278 6478. Welcome back, and any second now, any moment now, we will be joined by our special guest for tonight in the local game segment, Andy Pascalidis, who is the founder and the director of the Heartbeat for Football Foundation, a charitable foundation that promotes awareness and screening of people's health issues, if you like that, to ensure that they've got strong, healthy hearts. But before we talk about that, some good news in local football circles. Firstly, we've got the Geelong Galaxy United. They have been awarded certification or Certificate of Achievement and a 1-star club changer certification. So basically what that is the club changer, as you can see there, folks, on the screen, is Football Australia's club development program. And I'm going to read this, which aims to protect and enhance our clubs, make them stronger and more resilient, lead them in building welcoming and inclusive cultures, and educate them on positive environments for players, coaches, volunteers and officials while planning for long-term viability and success. No doubt certification alone doesn't mean that it's going to be guaranteed success, but obviously it signals the intention of that club wanting to take that club to a whole new level. So congratulations to Geelong Galaxy United, who I believe are the first and only club at this stage in the Geelong region to have reached that 1-star certification. Now, I may stand corrected, and if there are other clubs that have achieved that, folks, pop it down in the comments section. Now, a youngster, he's only 11, soon to turn 12, has achieved some great things here in Geelong. Geelong boy, Julian Ryan, and there he is, second from the right. He's been selected in the School Sports Victoria under 12 state boys soccer team, and he hails from Geelong. The youngster, he plays for Williams Landing Football Club. So we talk about parents taking their kids up and down, lots of travelling. This is, one of those examples. So well done to Julian, and well done to his parents as well for their commitment. And he's been selected in the School Sports Victoria state soccer team, and they will be playing out at Darebin in early October, I'm led to believe. So congratulations to young Julian. Now, finally, before we get to our main guest tonight, we've also got news today. The Football Victoria Competitions Department has, finally split the Geelong Region Women's Division into 2 divisions. And this was always going to be the case with a 15-team division. It was always going to be very, very hard. But in effect, it was used as a grading phase. And there we have the 8-team Division 1 competition and the 7-team Division 2 competition. And hopefully this means that going forward now, there'll be a template, there'll be a structure of what to expect, and we can expect that, next year there may be a few more teams that may enter the competition, and they'll probably enter at the Division 2 level. And that, next year we may have an 8-team Division 1 and maybe who knows, anywhere between an 8 and a 10-team Division 2 competition with promotion and relegation. But going through those teams in the Women's Division 1 competition: Bell Park, Barwon, Armstrong United, Lara United, Surfside Waves, Drysdale Soccer Club, Surf Coast, and Deakin Ducks Black. That is a very good competition, a very qualitative competition indeed. And then in Women's Division 2, we've got Barwon Heads, Deakin Ducks Gold, Corio Bay, Bellarine Sharks, Geelong Soccer Club, Golden Plains, and FC Leopold. So that's the latest news with regards to what is happening here locally. Folks, we're going to have our next guest coming on very, very shortly. He's only moments away. We're going to take a very short break, and then we'll get Andy Pascalidis, the founder and director of Heartbeat for Football. He'll be coming on to explain about the big event that's happening in Geelong this weekend. Folks, don't go away. Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome Andy Pascalidis to the Game of Two Halves podcast. Andy, good evening, and how are you?
Jubilar TP, I'm feeling pretty good. It's been an eventful few weeks. We've already conducted 4 testing activations in Melbourne, and we've got some big ones to come at Balmoral on Thursday, St Albans Friday, So I'll be going to the community and business event with Football Victoria, then heading out to St Albans. Saturday, we're actually going to Bendigo. Avondale's game's been switched. Then we're in your backyard, the big derby on Sunday, the Warriors and the Knights. And then Alamine on Monday, Heidelberg. And then we've got the PFA. We're testing former players on the day of the Matildas game. And then we finish up on Sunday week at Glen Ira. So it's a busy schedule, but it's one that's very important for the charity to go beyond the New South Wales border.
Yeah. Now, the heartbeat of football, its mission, its aim is to promote heart health through sport. Mate, tell us a little bit. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, actually, and your involvement in football. And we there's a real connection with the Geelong region. You've had a very, very strong connection with the Geelong region. But let's go back to the old days of the National Soccer League when you were a commentator with SBS Sport. How was that?
As the years go on, you sort of you appreciate those times even more so. I had a golden decade. We call it the golden generation of broadcasting at SBS, when you had your Murrays and your Johnny Warrens and your Kyle Pattersons and Greg Blakes, Mike Hills. We had some really Laurie Schwab. You think about all those people in the early days of the National League. And the beauty of working at SBS back then, the obvious one is, like so many of us, I grew up watching SBS, and dare I dreamt that I'd be commentating in 1984, And then in 1986, I was the youngest host of a sports show on Australian television on SBS, youngest commentator and whatnot. And for me, I look at things now and, you get frustrated because back then SBS was a one-stop shop. You'd watch World Soccer, rush home, watch World Soccer on a Saturday, on the ball, Saturday, Sunday, live match of the day, Sunday night, and NSL highlights, Olympic Airways or West End, whatever it was sponsored by, on Monday night. And then, of course, World Cups and all the big football tournaments globally. One-stop shop, cost you nothing. And that's where I think our generation were raised to follow football. So our parents and grandparents came here with rich football stock, no matter what your nationality, Serbian, Croatian, Maso, Greek, it doesn't matter. We came here with football in our family's veins. It's in our DNA. And it built from there, and it's taken me to World Cups, Euro Champion Cups, La Liga, calling Barcelona, Real Madrid. That was amazing in 97, 105,000. And more recently, India. But
tell us about that. How did that come about, the Indian Super League, and covering that?
Well, what happened pretty much when I was knifed at Fox, that was a difficult time for me. I felt I was in my prime. I'd given them everything after leaving SBS. I know I could have stayed at SBS for life. I would have loved to, but I think it's like anything, whether a footballer, administrator, coach, look at Ange Postecoglou. You want to test yourself. You want to go as far as you can. So in the end, actually, there was a couple of people at Fox that brought me in that loved what I did, and they had moved on before me, and one of them was looking after the Asia Cup 2007. So I ended up being based in Jakarta as a sole commentator, and I met a little David Horridge, a man with rich history in the UK, and he was brought in to help head up the production of the Indian Super League, and they found themselves one commentator down for a 4 or 5 week period. At that time, I was with Special Olympics fundraising and events manager in New South Wales. So I go up there, call a few games. The richest family in India run it, the Ambani's family, and they're massive, obviously. I think he's probably worth about 80 million right now.
Wow.
And there was a meeting, and they said, okay, who's the Aussie commentator? And I always thought, okay, the accent's not working, because they'd shifted a presenter and a director that were well established in India, Indian locals. So I just assume I get a red card. But then it turns out we want you to stay for the rest of the season. And I said, look, I'm committed to Special Olympics. And they go, can you come back? Wind it forward, I did 7 years there. And obviously there's quite a few Australians that have played there, quite a few famous people that have coached there, from John Gregory to Steve Coppell. King was player coach at one stage. Teddy's there. Marco Materazzi. there were so many well-established players, and even more recently, Dimi Petratos' side won the league, and he scored 12 and 7 assists. So I didn't go back this year because the charity is just exploding.
Yeah,
and
happy for football.
We did 55. Yeah, we did 55 testing days last year, and tested 1,893 people. I just did the maths on the weekend. We've now tested 1,980 people halfway through the year. That's 43 testing days. This trip will equal. And then we've got the Masters Games in Adelaide and some other big projects. There's one that I can't announce right now, but when you hear about it, you're going to say, oh, my God, look what this crazy guy's done. Look what this wonderful group of people behind him have been able to deliver. I'd love to tell you, but it's going to be a breakthrough for the charity, but it's going to be a breakthrough for heart health on a global scale. The numbers don't lie. The Heart Foundation, Victor Chang, and so many preeminents in this space look at our numbers. And right now, the cold hard reality is 51% of people that we've tested this year are presenting issues for high blood sugar, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure, of course, the third.
Blood pressure.
So, when we head out to St Albans on Friday night, we want as many of the local community to come up and be checked. Don't be afraid about your numbers. This is the problem I'm tending to see, particularly from men. They don't want to know. Well, in some cases, we've had people that have come to us, got themselves checked, not realised they're actually a diabetic. Their blood sugar was at 16.2. Some have actually been told to go straight to emergency. It can be confronting, but what's the alternative? Not checking, not getting a regular checkup. And dare I say, in the football family, I do not want to mention the club. I've been called just before I've come on air that a local administrator suffered a cardiac arrest and on Friday and consequently passed away yesterday. Out of respect to his family and club, as it turns out, I have family that are involved in that club. So out of respect, I won't mention it, but I will be endeavouring to reach out, which is what we do. And, we've been blessed in a way that in our beautiful game, we've had on the field now, we've had 19 incidents, but 16 players saved. And when I started this journey, sadly, we had 15 deaths in 18 incidents between 2014 and 16. So, it's incumbent on the Labor Party as a whole federally to come up with a policy very soon, because we're dealing with the biggest killer in society. And we know coming through COVID that there are serious issues, inactivity, not exercising, poor diet, not going to get a regular checkup. These are simple things that we do. The reality for me is that men, we are reactive. We only go to get medical help when we're in trouble. Women are proactive. So I urge everyone at the Warriors Knights Derby and at St Albans in particular, from your community and beyond, if you, at Balmoral or, at Avondale's game, wherever, and you can see that chart tells it, don't you? Do you see the red up the top? They're the numbers that we lost. And look at the red now. I want the red to be 0. Defibrillators. I want defibs at every ground. So if there's any politicians listening to me, please reach out. I sat down with the New South Wales Sports Minister on Friday before I drove down, and Steve Demopoulos' office did reach out to me, but it seems to be holiday time for several politicians. They're heading away. The world is open, and I understand that. But I think it's incumbent on the government to realize this. When we hear that $1 billion a year is spent by governments on health and only 1.5% is preventative, it's an imbalance.
It does. It says a lot about that. Now, on Sunday, we're at Elco Park. We're calling on all members of the football community, and it's not just North Geelong supporters, or certainly not people who are going to go along to the derby, but we want everyone from the Geelong football community. North Geelong has actually made it a standalone game on a Sunday. Normally their games are on a Saturday afternoon. They've moved this game a one-off on a Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. So it's not clashing with any of the other state league games on the Saturday. Expecting a huge crowd, big crowd. You've got a whole team there. When does the activation actually start, and when can people actually come to get checked? And is it, is it quite private? Do they have booths and things like that, or is it out in the open?
Yeah, we've got two options. I'll decide weather-wise whether I set the marquee, behind that goal as you come into the main grandstand area. I might set up there, depending on the weather. I do like to go indoors because it can be very personal for people, and we respect that. It's like a free consultation. Yeah. It's like going to your GP. You get a report. Your stats are checked. It's a little pinprick for your blood. It's a unique model that within 3 minutes we can tell you total cholesterol. So out of respect for privacy, and I sometimes see that, and I'm understanding of that. We're active for 5 hours. So we'd like to test at least 80 people if possible. Please don't be shy. I'll obviously talk to the club beforehand on where they think it fits best and how we set up. I will say this, and you know me, I'm never negative in our game. I love the game. It's in my blood. I was a little bit disappointed because we wanted to be active in Geelong on both Saturday and Sunday. But sadly, a local club, I won't name the local club, they were, for whatever reason, reluctant to consider us, which shocked me a lot. And as a consequence, I spoke to some people at Avondale, and they jumped up, as they do, straight away. And clubs down here, obviously South Melbourne, after I finished yesterday, I got there at half time. They're all like, why don't you come to our club? Well, when you go on the Oz Crow show and then other clubs reach out to you and they want to support you, of course. Like I got a phone call tournament in Adelaide. We're going to be in Adelaide as the designated charity for the Australian Masters Games. It's 8,000 to 10,000 athletes. Of course, we want to try and set up before that. And the Croatian tournament is perfect. It's a one-stop at the headquarters of South Australian football. No brainer being there for 3 days. So, we encourage it. We are surprised when clubs don't want to engage. That's fine. I'm not forcing anyone to do anything. But what I will say is that we're getting other sports knocking on the door. We've already done an AFL activation and a rugby league activation. I want to look after my football family first, second, and third, but we are exclusive, and we will evolve into heartbeat of sport, but also the heartbeat of football. So, it's all about getting yourself checked.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Andy, there's a slide there now on the screen. Why football? And it's a really good point that you make. It's such a melting point. 2 million participants represented by over 200 different cultures, and we're talking not just players. We're talking about officials, about parents, about coaches, about fans, supporters. I mean, it is a massive community. We forget we are such a big community. I mean, here in Geelong, there's probably something along the lines of 5,000 plus players. Now, you throw in partners, you throw in parents, you throw in coaches, spectators. You probably got somewhere anywhere between 10 and 15, maybe even 20,000 people belong to this footballing community here in Geelong. It is something massive. So kudos to you for obviously getting involved in the football side of things, but it's just becoming bigger and bigger. And you often say it's bigger than Ben-Hur.
Mate, look, I would have loved to have been in Geelong longer because there are known hotspots. The Heart Foundation maps it all out, and we follow their mapping. I'll give you an example. In the west of Sydney, it's a hotspot. The highest numbers we've had this year, 88% of people at one activation in the west have presented issues. The lowest, you talk about culture, was Banksia Tigers in Sydney. That's a pretty predominantly Muslim founded club. So because of no alcohol and different food groups, their percentage was 19%.
Well, there you go.
The issue they were saying to me is the guys that are on the Aguilera, that sit there with the Aguilera on match days, they're the ones they're trying to convert. But, it's systematic of what we went through COVID. And let's be honest, we've all been doing it, not all of us. regularly, but most of us, where you're working from home, you go hard for a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, I might just have a snack, come back, work again. Oh, geez, I'll have a snack. It's not dinner time yet. Did I go for a walk then? No, I didn't do my 10,000 steps. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And before you know it, it's time to cook dinners, kids, take them out to football, whatever you got to do. So I think it's really a lifestyle thing that we address as a human race. It's
absolutely.
Look at the numbers. We're doing, and you know one thing, when we celebrated the Matildas, and we also focused on women's heart health. We had Kate Gill from the PFA come up, Deb Nichols from Southern United. She's a SCAD survivor. 3 times more women pass through cardiovascular disease than cancers. And these are things that a lot of people don't know. It is confronting, yes, but education and awareness, preventative, and being ready to react, having a defib. Mate, if I told you what I've seen in the last 12 months, where I've been at clubs and the defibrillator is not working, or they're saying to me, what does that red thing mean? I go, when you drive, when it goes red, you stop. When it's green, you drive. Same thing. I mean, what people are getting defibs, putting them there and thinking, that's it, I've done my bit. Check them, make sure they're working. It's something that Julia Zuza, I've got a wonderful Croatian Australian, Julia Zuza, John Zuza, Brendan Zuza. They've got and Google search this, Response for Life. She's been putting defibs all around the country and training people. She's a gun. She's an absolute gun. She's a charity. And just to have her at my function, the fundraiser recently, Sydney Olympic 10K. And then,
wow.
The chairman spent 13 on the auction, spent $8,500 for a Sandcur frame jersey. You know what? I've got something that I want to donate it to my charity, but I can't. I can't because it's signed jersey, and I've given away so many to people. I've got a Leeds United jersey signed by the V Bomber. I think I'll take
Mark
that.
Viduka.
I think I might just take that with me. I think that's, I just keep, every time I see it, my wife goes, why don't you frame it? I go, I'm worried. Just frame the thing. I go, oh my God, Jane, do you remember the highlights? And she doesn't follow football. I go, he killed Liverpool. You got to see. I'll get it on YouTube. Come and have a look. I tell you, that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in football, what Mark Viduka did that day against Liverpool. The way he did it. And he even says it wasn't one of his best games, but I tell you, all 4 goals were totally different. Totally different.
Well, they were indeed, and even Liverpool supporters, I think, will be torn by saying that was just an absolute fantastic, a freak show by the V Bomber. He was just one of a kind. Andy, we're gonna have to leave it at that. What time does it get underway at Elko Park on Sunday?
Mate, we're on for 5 hours. I think from 11:30. Pretty sure it's 11:30.
From 11:30. Yeah. So do yourself a favour.
St Albans, just for in the greater Melbourne area. St Albans, obviously, because there's a night kick-off. I think we're kicking off around 5:30.
5:30. So 5:30 at St Albans, Churchill Reserve. Otherwise, at North Geelong there will be games throughout the afternoon, throughout the morning. In fact, there will be junior games being played as well. So do go along to Elko Park, make a day of it. It's going to be a great game. At 3 p.m, the main game kicks off, the NPL battle between North Geelong and the Melbourne Knights, but also, the heartbeat for football activation. Andy, we certainly hope it goes really, really well. You've got a very, very busy time ahead, and we look forward to that major announcement pretty shortly. But in the meantime, all the best for Sunday. All the best for this weekend. You're going to be going from Melbourne to Bendigo to Geelong and back to Melbourne, all in the space of a couple of days. Incredible.
Look, what I will say is I'll also be coming back probably after that Monday night at Alamine, and I'll probably come back down on Tuesday and try and catch up with the Savinsky family properly. I'll see them all on Sunday, but, just to spend a bit of downtime with Adrian and Jules and everyone else. So looking forward to it.
Look, good on you. Good on you, Andy. Great to have you on the Game of Two Halves podcast. All the very best.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. That was Andy Pascalidis from the Heartbeat for Football Foundation. A big day coming up there on Sunday at Elko Park. And it is a shame. We won't mention who the local club was that decided not to have the activation on a Saturday, but it would have been very good. Would have really captured two different types of communities and had that option. If you couldn't get there on the Sunday, you could get to the other club on Saturday, but unfortunately it wasn't the case to be. Folks, that is the end of this week's show. Thank you very much for being a part of for being a part of tonight's program. We had Jack Reedy earlier in the piece in the global game segment, and then we finished it off with Andy Pascalidis in the local game segment. Folks, next week we will be back for episode 113 of the Game of Two Halves podcast. We look forward to having your company then. Until then, have a great week and enjoy the little bit of school holiday time that is left with the kids. Bye-bye.